Once you understand this, becoming a millionaire is easy no matter where you're starting from. You don't need a high income, a college degree, or a fancy network. You don't even need luck. You can make your first million starting from an entry-level job painting houses. And if I had to start over, this is exactly how I become a millionaire on a low salary, step by step. First, most people think you have to save your way to wealth, but they're totally wrong. So when I was in college, I had this mentor, Justin, for 5 years, and he completely changed my life in a lot of ways. But there was one lesson that he had passed along to me that completely changed my mindset. We were at his house one day and he was sharing with me all of his goals. They were big goals, about what he wanted to create, what he wanted to buy, the lifestyle he wanted to live. And at one point he said, I'll just figure out how to make more money. He was never a budgeting guy. He was a spend money, make money, figure out how to make more money guy. And that one mindset around, I'll just figure out how to make more, became a way that I've always thought about building wealth myself. It's not about saving, it's about figuring out how to make more. There's fundamentally a limit on how many expenses you cut. At some point, you can't cut any more expenses, and that doesn't become a path to becoming wealthy. When you start to focus on learning and developing your skills and becoming more valuable, you start to increase the income that you can make because you increase the value you can contribute to the world. And when you focus on making more and becoming more valuable, there is virtually unlimited upside on that path. There's basically no limit to how many skills you can develop and how much value you can create. And when you start to focus on that rather than cutting expenses, you start to become a weapon. You become so valuable in the market that you'll be rewarded for that. And when you focus on that, developing skills and becoming more valuable, you also start to create that as a habit that over time will compound to create amazing results for you in your life. Real wealth comes from building and creating cash flow. So everybody who's wealthy, it's about cash flow. Even if you want to make a ton of money and put it in the stock market, or you want a big nest egg, ultimately you're going to live off the cash flow. Cash flow is the game. And there's only two ways that you can increase your cash flow. You can cut expenses, but there's only so far you can take that, or you can increase your income. Building and developing your skills to increase your income is the fastest path to getting wealthy. Now, there's no shortcuts to this, but it's easier than you think. Becoming a millionaire starts by dominating the job you already have. Your job isn't just a job, it's your runway to wealth. So I've interviewed over 3,000 people in my career. I've processed over 15,000 applicants. And what I've learned is that very, very few people try hard to get a job. So recently I was hiring a senior executive assistant, and I posted the job out and I was offering great compensation, way above average, and an amazing work environment. Like, we have a great place to work. I got 788 applicants for the position in a week. And of those 788 applicants, 35 of them followed the fairly simple instructions for how to apply to the job. So that's how I eliminated 753 people from the pool. Of the people who followed instructions, most of them didn't do a great job. The point is, it is very easy to stand out because most of the people you're competing for in the job market are not doing a great job hunting and seeking jobs. They do a very half-assed approach to trying to get a job, meaning there is opportunity for you to stand out and get the job you want. At our company, 90% of the people we hire in our painting portfolio, we don't hire people from the painting industry. We're hiring for character, not talent. We're hiring for character, not a degree. We're hiring for character, not experience. And you have an opportunity to dramatically stand out, and it's not that hard to do. I coach a lot of business owners, and one of the biggest complaints I hear from people all the time is there's no one good out there. I can't find good help. Yet at the same time, there's a lot of employees out there who say, I can't find a good company to work for. Now, both are right, but they're also wrong. So in my case, I ended up hiring an amazing senior executive assistant, but I had to go through 780 applicants to find the right person. We always find amazing people in our business, but we have to seek them out. We have to be selective and we have to be patient. And sometimes that means waiting months to find the right hire. But the same is true for you when you're pursuing a job. There are some amazing companies out there. Most of them are not. But the job that you get and the company you work with makes a dramatic impact on your career, your ability to learn and develop your skills, and the future opportunities it creates for you. So as you're pursuing your job, you should treat it like your most important job is getting an amazing job. What makes an amazing job for you is a great company, because your job is going to be to learn. You want a company that's been around for a while, that's succeeding in the marketplace so you can see what is it like at a highly successful company and a company that really values training and developing their employees. The most valuable thing you're going to get from your job is not the paycheck. It's the skills you're going to develop, the training and development they're going to provide to you, and the lessons you're going to learn about running a successful company while you're there. The most important thing for you to do is to be selective about where you work, and when you find those great opportunities, go all in to be the most standout candidate that is in that applicant pool so you can land the right job. For example, one of our recent hires got a $50,000 raise when she got a job at our company because she stood out. And after we hired her, I said, hey, how much were you making before? And found out she got a $50,000 raise because she got a job with our company. One of the easiest ways for you to make more money is literally to apply to better jobs and stand out from everyone else. When you get those better jobs, it's going to give you even more future opportunities because of what you're going to learn. Skill stacking is your ladder out of low-wage work, especially if you stay in the same industry. Stack your roles, not your resume. Hunter is the current CEO of our painting portfolio, which does $30 million a year, but he didn't start there. In fact, in 2013, Hunter applied to work at our company when he was in college. He was completely broke and actually had, I think he says, $12 in his checking account, and so he needed a job, and he applied to do door-to-door at our company. His first day, he kicked ass and made a bunch of money, and he continued in that role and became one of the highest performers in the company. So when we needed to hire a salesperson, Hunter was someone we offered that job to. So within about a year, he actually moved into sales. And then he did a really great job in sales for the next year or two. So when he got out of college, he said, hey guys, I want to start a business. And we said, great, we'll start a business with you as minority partners. So Hunter started his first business with us, and he was able to do that because he'd been stacking the skills with marketing and sales. That business he started is Elkhorn Painting. And this year, that business is on track for over $8 million a year, and he's not even 30 years old yet. Not only that, but he's also the CEO and acting CEO of a $30 million portfolio that is growing fast. So your goal in building your career is developing your skills. You kick ass in the position you're in, which gives you the credibility to do another position so you can earn the next position and start to broaden your skills, which gives you an opportunity when you kick ass in that position for the next position. And over time, as you stack your skills and you understand more about how this whole business operates because you stay in the same industry, you become much more unique because there's fewer and fewer people in your industry that understand this and this and this and have a proven track record. As you become more unique, you become more valuable. And as you become more valuable, you can get better jobs, better positions, better compensation. And more importantly, you're going to continue to develop the skills that are going to pay off in the long game. So every move you make through your career path should be strategic. And the strategic goal is to understand more and more about how the entirety of the company operates. Because when we talk about becoming a millionaire, you're gonna need to do more than just have a job. So every move you make should be strategic. It's building your skills, but it's also moving you closer and closer to being the kind of person who can run and operate an entire company. Staying in one industry and diversifying your skills gives you a complete education, far better of an education than you could ever get from a college degree or in a classroom. When you've actually done the work of the core functions in a business where you understand enough about marketing, you understand sales, and you understand delivery, like delivering on the promises made in the sales process, you have really understood the core functions of the business. And when you start to be someone who can run and understand an entire company, you have become a true asset. And you have started to create the opportunities for you that will give you opportunities to start a company, to run a company, and give you opportunities and equity in building true wealth. And look, in this world, it's not hard to be better than everyone else. The bar is pretty low. The number one reason people stay broke, they waste their best resources, time, energy, and money. You don't have to save more, you have to redirect better. I saw a video recently about how to be a millionaire, and one of the suggestions was save $158 a month. I mean, it made me want to puke. Rather than saving $158 a month for the next 30 years to become wealthy, take that money and invest it in your education and in developing your skills. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a college education that often doesn't actually develop skills that can be applied and compensated for. Yet for some reason, when people get out of college, they're cheap and stingy with investing in themselves and their education to master the specific things that they need to master in their industry to build their skill set to become more valuable. You need to allocate your time, money, and energy into building your skills because you are the ultimate value creator and therefore wealth creator in your own life. Yet people massively underinvest their most important resources in developing that skill set, which makes you valuable. So I want to tell you about Jess. Jess is the highest performing sales rep in our company. She makes about $100,000 more per year than our average sales rep does in our company. She does that because she's invested more time in mastering her craft and developing her skill in sales. There's no secret to getting really good at anything. You just have to invest more time, more energy, and more resources into getting really good at the thing you're doing. And when you do that, you will be rewarded. Most people aren't millionaires. Most people live a mediocre life. Most people live an ordinary life. Being a millionaire and living that kind of life is extraordinary. You have to be willing to do things that most people aren't willing to do. You have to be willing to cut Netflix. You have to be willing to cut endless scrolling on social media. You have to be willing to cut spending money on useless crap and instead take that time and take that money and invest it in building and developing your skills. The most important investment that you make is not even money, it's your time and attention and where you allocate it. And you don't need to put that much time into developing your skills to be way ahead of most people because most people aren't investing any time into developing their skills. All you need to do is more than most people, and when most people are doing nothing, you just doing a little bit is enough to get ahead. And if you're really ambitious, put more time, more attention, and invest more in developing those skills, and you will be surprised at how easy it is to win and how easy it is to outperform the people around you. This simple change will make you stand out in the market because most people are busy watching Netflix, endlessly scrolling social media, and not dedicating time to their own training and development on their off hours. This one thing will separate you from so many people that are out there. Pick the right industry, and becoming a millionaire is 10 times easier, even on a low salary. Home services might be the most overlooked millionaire factory. If you want to know where the biggest opportunities are, just look where the smart money is going. I recently saw a study done by PitchBook on where private equity money has been going and how much has been flowing into the home services. It said since 2022, there have been 800 businesses that have been purchased in the skilled trades industry, and that is likely an undercount. These are plumbers, electricians, painters, roofers who are taking 6 and 7 figure paydays. And that 800 figure was noted that it is likely an undercount. There's a number of reasons that private equity is pouring into the home services. First, there's a huge demand. The US home services market is estimated to be $657 billion per year and is poised to grow to nearly $900 billion per year by 2031. This is being driven by increases in cost of materials, increases in labor costs, but also the ever increasing building of homes and buildings that continues to happen. And all of these homes and buildings need to be serviced, maintained, and taken care of. This is a massive market that continues to grow. Second, it's largely AI proof. The home services business is poised to avoid a lot of the disruption in AI. While AI is certainly going to have an impact and robotics is going to have an impact, when you look at this face-to-face interactions and the need for skilled labor, it's one of the industries that is more protected from the disruption that is happening from AI, robotics, and all the other technology that's coming. 3, it's largely recession-proof. Buildings and homes need to be maintained whether or not the economy is doing well. So in 2008, I was in the painting industry, and we actually saw our business grow in 2008. And then through COVID, we actually saw our business grow through COVID. Because homes need to be maintained and taken care of. These are significant assets for people, and when they're not planning on moving, they're not kicking the can down the road. So while we do see a little bit of a pullback on some of the higher ticket luxury items like remodeling bathrooms and kitchens during an economic recession, we don't see a significant pullback during recessions, which makes this a very interesting industry to be in. And finally, there's a low barrier to entry. So in the home services market, it's relatively easy to get your foot in the door to start a business for a number of reasons. One, it's not something that requires a massive college degree to get into. We're not launching rockets, we're not coding software, it's not massive engineering. Most of these services you can learn doing them yourself in a very short period of time. Also, the barrier to entry to actually starting these companies is relatively low. You can start them with minimal startup costs, you can get customers quickly, cash flow quickly, and turn a profit very quickly. So there's a low barrier to entry, making the home service industry an amazing opportunity to get into and to focus on if you're gonna be in the long game, which you should be. In 2019, I was brought on as an advisor to a venture-backed company that was out of New York City. They had raised $25 million and they were targeting the home services industry for many of the reasons we just talked about. So when I was going through their process to become an advisor, they shared a really interesting statistic with me about how segmented the market is, which really just means that there's not a lot of market leaders, there's just tons and tons of small companies. At the time, in 2019, out of all the home service businesses out there, the company that had the biggest market share was a pest control company. Maybe you've heard of the company, it's called Orkin, and at the time, they owned 12% of the market, which means 88% of that market was owned by a lot of smaller players. So if they had the most, there might be another company that's got 8 or 7%, another company that's got 3 or 4, but largely it is dominated by all these small local players. And if you look at other industries like painting, you see that it is massively dominated by a lot of small companies, which means there's a ton of opportunity for new people to enter and for people to build and grow large companies because it's not being dominated by a 1 or 2 huge players like Coke and Pepsi or like Salesforce and CRMs. You have this massive opportunity to capture market share from a lot of the other people who are small and not really running their business like a business. So if you're gonna do something long-term, you wanna be in something that's gonna be around long-term. So there's something called the Lindy effect. And in short, the Lindy effect says that if you want to know how long something's gonna be around, look at how long it's been around. And the home services industry has been around a long, long time. I remember when I was in early 2010s, I was chasing all of these different opportunities at the time. And I remember watching certain Silicon Valley companies like pop up out of nowhere with a brand new idea and reach huge revenue, but then 3 years later, literally went to zero. Because new ideas and new technologies have a higher likelihood of being disrupted and disappearing. If you want to be in something for the long term, you want to look at the things that have been around for a long time to leverage the Lindy effect to see what's going to be around for a long time. Because if you're going to build wealth, you have to stick with something for an extended period of time, which is why picking the right industry is such a huge factor in building wealth and going from a low salary to making millions of dollars. If you like this video, be sure to check out my other one about the 4 best home service businesses to start in 2025.